Welcome back, America. I'm really excited to have this next guest on. He's a member of the team that's sponsoring this segment here at AMAC, the Association of Mature American Citizens. But he was also an Assistant Secretary of State at a very crucial time in our nation's history. And before that, one of the most accomplished investigators in Congress. He did oversight the way it was supposed to be done. He's our good friend, Bobby Charles, and he joins us right now. Bobby, great to have you on the show.
John, always pleasure to be with you all.
I want to ask a little bit about the state of law enforcement. You did a lot of oversight. You know about law enforcement. Law enforcement reported to you in the State Department. You have an attorney general whose credibility is now directly questioned by the people who work for him, and a president a son who's now going to be an admitted tax cheat, and a president who had a bribery allegation that we didn't know about hanging over him the last 6 years. This isn't a look that looks good to the rest of the world, is it?
You know, John, it's not. And I would tell you that I think we've crossed an invisible threshold in which a series of underlying crimes, probably crimes that would fit, for example, under 18 U.S.C. 201, which involves federal bribery. We now see from whistleblowers and documents emerging out of Treasury that there's a really colorable claim for these felony violations to have been committed, perhaps even RICO violations, by the father and son together, and perhaps as many as 7 other people. But I think we've crossed an invisible threshold in which an Attorney General of the United States, consciously knowing that the facts support a colorable claim, is actually now defending these acts, in effect, by quietly not stepping up to speak the truth and, in fact, denying that these exist. So to me, that's very, very worrisome.
Yeah, I understand.
Bobby, I think for a lot of Americans, they look at the alleged crimes of the Biden family. And John and I have often spoke about the fact that if there was a Venn diagram of Biden family's business relationships with foreign countries and the most corrupt nations, those two would overlap quite a bit. When it comes to what the Biden family is alleged to have done for Americans, and they look at the corrupt nature of their government in general, what can Americans cling to for some type of assurance that maybe things will get better?
You know, what a great question. And it's really on everybody's minds. I mean, I was an oversight counsel, but I was also a U.S. clerk on the Ninth Circuit. And we trust in the honor of our courts, the honor of our public servants. And I think what you're really talking about is a hemorrhaging of integrity that is transparent to the average citizen, and a real concern about whether we can ever get this government to be accountable. I think the good news is we've cycled through down periods of high-level corruption. I mean, it happened in the early 1920s and 30s. There have been other periods of time when, I would argue that Watergate is nothing by comparison to what we're seeing now. But I think these crimes are so transparently out there. The data is going to be so easily corroborated that at the end of the day, what I see is a dam breaking, Amanda. I think some Democrats, moderate Democrats, the same way that, Peter Rodino and Bill Cohen and other Republicans in 1972 said, these are just things up with which we cannot put. This is going to be something that we've got to react to. The nation matters more than the party. Now, that's going to take a little bit of courage. But in the end, I think we are a nation of more public integrity than less. We're just seeing, unfortunately, the showcasing in the Bidens and those that are covering up for them a real low period in terms of public integrity.
Yeah, Bobby, I heard you say hemorrhaging integrity, and I hear so many people say that right now. They really feel like America has lost its luster. Joe Biden, in the middle of this, when they're very serious questions, right? These aren't whimsical political questions. These are very serious questions being raised by IRS people. He makes a joke like, I was selling off the country and who cares? It almost seems like he wants to ignore the severity of this. What message does that send to third world countries, other countries that look to us for moral leadership?
Yeah, I think it's transparent. We're not living up to our own ideals, and we have a president of the United States who has a vice president of the United States, opened 20 accounts, had money shipped to them by foreign nationals. Looks to me like they were trying to avoid suspicious transaction reports, CTRs, CMIRs, and now we have whistleblowers who are very specific about what they heard and what they saw and the texts that were sent. I mean, to me, this is classic RICO violation material. This is the kind of thing federal prosecutors live to prosecute. Yeah. And I think the average foreign national looking at this is very, it's kind of sad. It's crazy to say this in a way, but they look up to America as a beacon. And as much as they'll publicly say things about us not being what we're supposed to be, or we're internally divided, and they get a lot of kick out of that, in the end, they really do need a lodestar. They need a beacon. And the world has historically needed a beacon since at least World War II. We are that beacon. And when our leaders hemorrhage integrity, have no respect for those that they're talking to, ultimately showcase the worst sides of human nature, not the best, we're letting ourselves down, and we're letting our allies down. And we're inviting our adversaries, in particular countries like China, Iran, North Korea, Russia, to compare themselves with us and say, look, you got a corrupt president too.
Bobby, we've just got a few minutes left. I want to pick your statesman brain about the situation in Russia. The news over the weekend seemed to be changing very, very quickly. This group of mercenaries, the Wagner group, attempted coup. And then today, the news that the charges against Prigozhin, the leader of that group, were dismissed. There are a lot of strange things surrounding this entire story. Can you make sense of it for us?
Yeah, it's interesting. With international intrigue, by definition, it's intriguing. It's got feints within feints within feints, and you're never quite sure, particularly in the modern world, what you're hearing and whether it's true, whether it's intended, whether it's meant to mislead you. And in the intelligence community, and I spent 10 years in intelligence, there's a lot of this, sort of game playing, game theory, if you will. But I'll tell you the obvious points that sort of ricochet out of this to me. One is that morale is very low at the front, and you've got real tensions between the mercenaries, the Wagner group in particular, and the regular army. You also have a tremendous downdraft that is affecting Putin's credibility. There's no way he wanted this. I've heard the theories that somehow this was by his invention to solidify more support at home. No leader stages a false coup that ultimately weakens them both in the eyes of their own population and foreign nationals. But I would argue there's a strategic element to this event that people are not thinking a lot about, and that is that President Xi in China is going to have to make some big decisions. Either he ramps up his support for Putin, or he backs off and says, you know what, authoritarian regimes are fragile. Mine could be fragile too. I'm going to be very cautious about what I do going forward. So I think this puts, I don't think it's
Bobby,
over.
We're going to lose you just because we're about to hit a card commercial break. I'm so sorry, my friend. You're always brilliant on our show. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back after this.